Hi guys, how you guys doing? I'm doing all right. Yes, guys. So, I would like to talk to you guys, tell you guys a story. I was thinking about if I should tell you a funny story or a true story. But I think this is kind of funny, so I guess today is going to be a true story. But know that throughout the month of December, I will come and give you guys a little bit of stories about me, and you get to know me a little bit too. So the time that I cook a big pot of rice, huge pot of rice, like a party pot, that no one could eat. So my thought was in a good place. It was. I was trying to, feed everybody and let the food last for a couple of days. So no one else would cook, and they'll have food for, whatever. It would just be food in the house. Now, this is around the time I started to learn how to cook. And I finally got the strategy to cook rice and beans, right? But not only I cooked the pot of rice that no one can eat, I was not familiar with electric stoves at that time. Me, electric stove is like we're not, still today we kind of like, we got closer, but sometimes we be button head, me and electric stoves. So I cook a pot of rice, right? It was Haitian pot, Haitian rice and beans, black beans, where you boil the beans, you take the water that the beans is boiling, because that's what gives the rice the color, especially if you're doing black rice. And after that, you let it boil. Then you drain the beans, keep the water, and then you put sofrito. But it's not called sofrito; it's called epis in my language. Is where it's mixed, is blended herbs like thyme and blended how would you even say that? Green onions, like scallion, onion, bell peppers. All this stuff is blended. Garlic, everything's blended into that concoction, and it's called ippies. But some people could compare ippies to sofrito. So you put the sofrito in, you put oil, put sofrito, and then you fry the sofrito up a little bit. Then you put the beans. But the thing about the beans, when you're boiling the beans, you do not let the beans get mushy. You let it have, let it still have a firmness, because even after you boil it, you're going to fry it and then add water again, the water it was boiling the first time, the color water, and then add your rice. Like, first you add your seasoning. Well, before you do that, you add your seasoning in the beans, or while it's in the water too. You add your seasoning in the water with the beans, and then when the water starts to boil, you add your rice. So when you drain it, before you drain it, you have to make sure it's still firm, because if it's mushy, or in my language, if it's broken, c'est écrasé les barbons, basically. So I finally got the tactic, I got the strategy, and I made rice and beans before, right? So I was like, I got this. So I was like, there was like 6 other people in the house, and I wanted to cook for everybody. And I usually cook for everybody, but I always cook small, and people get like a teaspoon and everything is done. So I at the time I wanted to learn how to cook big varieties of food. So I was like, okay, let me come. The big pot that you use to cook for a party of 20, 30 people? Guys, that's the pot I took, okay? I had a big head. My ego was like, I got this. Okay. So I boil the beans, check the beans, it was still firm, and then it was cooked, but it was firm. And then I drained it out, I kept the water on one side, and then I got the beans on the other. So then I put some oil, and then I put some epis, the sofrito, and then I add the beans. Then when I add the beans, I put the seasoning, and then the aroma was just hitting. Like at the time I was living in a 2-story house, but these ceilings were high, so this aroma went all the way from the top of the house, backyard, outside the house. Like I was living in Louisiana at the time, so the houses in Louisiana are huge. The aroma took the whole block. Like everybody was like, it's smelling right. And they come downstairs, it was like, what you cooking? And I'm like, I'm cooking some rice and beans. Guys, to add the rice, okay, I started to have a little bit of difficulty. And then I add the water, and then I add the rice. Now, mind you, this is an electric stove. There's high, there's medium, and there's low. The high, medium, and low is not the same as the high, medium, and low on a gas stove, okay? So I have this thing on high, and then I put the water's boiling with the beans again for me to add the rice, because you can't add the rice until the water's boiled. If you do that, the rice becomes mushy. So you have to wait until the water boils, like you see the bubbles on top, then you add the rice. So I waited. Okay, it was going good. And I put the rice in. For some reason, as soon as I was done putting the rice in, the water started to dry up. And I didn't have no more black water. Because again, when you're doing Haitian rice and beans or any other, I don't know how other cultures do it, but my culture, when you're doing rice and beans, you keep the water that the beans were boiling, because the water gives the rice its color. I didn't have no more water. So this is where it started to go. It was going this way, and then all of a sudden it went down. So I go add water, but I went to go add cold water to the rice. Okay? Mind you, the water started to dry up. As soon as I got done, put it in the rice. And the electric stove was on high. Oh my God. So then, after the water started to dry up, I add more water. And it looked kind of weird, so I was like, I thought it would be okay. Then I waited till the water to dry up again. And then I mixed it one time, because I didn't want to mix it too much, so my beans don't break and my rice don't get too mushy. Because that's another thing, if you keep stirring the rice, you don't pick it up from the bottom, go to the middle, and then go like this, it will become mushy. Okay, that's another thing. So I remember all these tricks, but for some reason the water dried up too fast, and I'm like, for some reason the rice should have looked kind of like a grayish color because of the black water from the beans. The rice looked white, and then not only that, the rice looked raw, like it just came out the bag, and I'm like, something ain't right. And I was like, should I add more water? I was like, let me add a little bit more water. Then I closed it up. I put aluminum foil on top, and I put the pot cover. Then I started to smell like a funny smell, like something burning, but it was a faint burning smell. And I'm like, what is that faint burning smell? And I'm like, is it the rice? And I remember to put the volume of the heat on the electric stove down. So I go put it down, but I put it between medium and low, but it was more closer to the medium, right? After after almost closer to 10 minutes, I go in the kitchen, I just smell something burning. And I'm like, what is burning? I lift up the top still looks raw, but the side, it's like little smoke coming out. And I'm like, what's going on? So I'm looking at the pot is looking at me. I don't know what to do then. So I was like, okay, let me just, mix the rice together. And as I'm mixing the rice together, I see the side of the rice is very crunchy. Not like the outside of the middle part is mushy, and the top and middle part is just raw. And I'm like, that's not good. So I took some rice out, and I added some more oil, put the aluminum back on, and the top. I come back, it smells stronger. I'm like, I don't get it. So I'm looking at the rice and the rice looking at me. And then somebody came to visit. Somebody came and visit. And they came in the kitchen. They're looking at me, looking at the pot and doing this with the nose. What you cooking? And I said rice and beans. And I was like, but it's starting to burn. And I don't know how. It doesn't look like it's burning. It looks undone, uneven. And they looked at me. And they were Haitian. And they was like, okay, we can save your rice. So they lift the pot. It looked worse. Okay? The rice had no color at this time. The top still looked white. And some parts, you can see it's mushy, and some parts look raw. So I was like, okay. They opened the rice up in the middle, right? And they asked, I think they add water and oil. And they said that the water and the oil is gonna soak up all the, like the taste of the burnt taste and the smell. And then from there, the rice will be good. So I was so happy because I was like, okay, there's hope. And this lady's Haitian. She knows what she's doing. An hour and a half later, and then she turned the volume down. She said the volume on the rice was too high. Guys, the volume on the rice was too high. So then I'm like, oh. So then we go back in the kitchen to go, see if we could eat. Because at this time, it was smelling good, and then you just smell charcoal. You just smell firewood burning. Like that's all you smell. But she said, she gave me hope, courage, that this rice could be saved, right? So we lift up the pot. The rice looked really, really, really done, but it was still discolored. She took a spoon. We both took a spoon. The outside of the rice was moist, but the inside of the 1 grain rice was hard. Guys, I messed up this rice, and guys, it was a big pot of rice. And people kind of got upset with me because they was like, you wasted 2-3 bags of rice and you don't know how to cook. You don't know how to cook. And I felt so bad because I really was trying to cook for everyone. My mind and heart was in the right place, but I didn't know what I was doing. I should have asked for help. Guys, I burned rice and beans the very first time. So I should have just stick to my little small pot. And I should have known high on the electric stove is not the same on a gas stove. But yeah, I wanted to share my story, the time I cooked and I burned the food. I hope that made you laugh. I hope it did something. Put a smile on your face. Have a good night. God bless you.